Welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast, where powerful women are interviewed every week to share real inspiring stories and incredible insight to help women or anyone break the barriers, be a part of innovation, shatter the glass ceiling, and dominate to the top of their sport, industry, or life's mission. Join us as we celebrate exceptional women and step into our power. And now, here's your host, Angela Gennari.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. My name is Angela Gennari, and I'm here with Erika Stanley. Hi, Erika.
Hi.
I'm so excited to welcome you. So, Erika empowers purpose-driven entrepreneurs to harness AI, infuse their values into their brand, and stand out in their field. Through her agency, Mile and Digital, she helps difference makers craft authentic brands to amplify their impact. With technology leveling the playing field, now is your time to shine. That's really cool. So, very first sentence is AI. So let's talk about AI. Let's talk about, well, first, what made you want to get into the marketing realm? And then let's dive into a little bit of AI.
Yeah, so I have been in the marketing industry for about 20 years now.
Nice.
And I have worked for both internal marketing departments and on the agency side. And, as I went on, I realized that there were a lot of emerging technologies that would allow smaller businesses to have access to similar resources to the multi-million dollar advertising budgets that we were seeing. And the last agency I worked for, we had a really good reputation, and St. Petersburg, Florida is where I'm located. And it's a very big, shop local, support local. And so we would have these small businesses come to our agency wanting to work with us because of our reputation. And they were too small. They didn't meet our agency minimum. And so when I started Mile and Digital, I wanted to use some of the tech and the resources that we had been using at the agency for bigger clients to help smaller businesses, independent business owners, have access to the same types of email marketing, social media marketing, ad campaigns, things like that, that had typically just been reserved for big budgets and big companies. And so that's how I started the foundation of my business. It's just serving those people who really needed my help and deserved to have access to those things.
Yeah, well, and I can tell you as a small business owner, that's one of the biggest challenges we have is that you see all these great products out there and you're like, I can't afford that. And then you do take that leap and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and throw several $1,000s into this print ad, but you're not a big business, so you can't afford to keep doing those print ads, which is what you need to do. You need to be able to have that consistency. And so you throw a bunch of money at it thinking, oh, I'll just solve this problem. And you don't get the response you want because it's not allocated properly. And you're right back into, well, that was a waste of 10 grand. Whereas, it's just so frustrating as a small business owner and not knowing, and you're like, I can't afford an agency and I can't afford this. And so you're really stuck. So I love that you're serving that small business market.
Yeah. And they are a perfect fit. I mean, they're a perfect fit for me, but they're also, they're a perfect fit for AI. It's been all anybody's talking about for the last year and a half, at least. I first got introduced to it November, December, about 2 years ago.
Wow.
And
okay. You're really on the front edge of that. I love it.
Yeah. I started playing around with it. I was actually planning my wedding and needed a way to organize all of the to-dos. And so I had this ongoing to-do list in my Apple Notes. And somebody had mentioned, oh, there's this new thing called ChatGPT. You should try it out. And I organized my to-do list and have not looked back since.
Really? That's fantastic. So ChatGPT is a window that is literally always open on my computer, and there's a running list of all the different topics, podcast and business and emails and marketing, and I've got a whole chain. ChatGPT and I talk more than my mother and I do.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I totally feel that. I use it more than Google now. I use ChatGPT and Perplexity more than I go to Google. So,
oh yeah, for sure. So tell me a little bit about AI, because you had mentioned that women are slower to pick up AI than men, and I really want to dive into that because that seems crazy to me. I freaking love AI, but I would, it's such a great tool if you utilize it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's this new study. It was done by scholars at multiple universities,
Yeah.
and both here in the U.S. and abroad. And women are not adopting AI at rates as fast as men.
Wow.
It's actually, I mean, it's abysmal. It's sad,
Yeah.
and it's worldwide, and it's among women of different backgrounds. So women who work in offices, women in the household, versus men who work in an office or men who are at home, and women are just not using it in the day to day.
Hmm. Why
And
do you think that is?
I don't know. I've got some
Uh-huh.
theories.
Hmm.
I think that a lot of women of my generation or older, and it's changing now, right?
Uh-huh.
But I think a lot of women who are, in their 30s, 40s, and older, we were kind of taught that tech and science wasn't our thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just doesn't seem like it's for us. And what I am trying to change with my business and the conversations I'm having with women business owners is that it absolutely is for us.
Yeah.
AI, if you are a small business owner, AI has so many different ways that you can lean into your zone of genius as a business owner and then use AI to offload some of the menial tasks. Little things that we all have to do and don't want to do, the project management things. I also think that there's a fear about it. We've all seen Terminator and what happens when the robots take over the world. No, and I mean that's kind of a joke, but there's a little bit of fear about it too, about it taking away our autonomy, taking away our authenticity. Um, and I can see that and appreciate that. There are ways that we can use it where it will actually amplify our authenticity. Um, I, this is it's like a side metaphor comparison. Prince Harry.
Hmm.
So Prince Harry worked with a ghostwriter to write his book,
Hmm.
Spare.
Right.
And he was unashamed about that. There are other stars who have used ghostwriters and they don't want to admit it.
Hmm.
But he very openly said, like, "Hey, I'm not a trained writer." He got trained in an awful lot of things
Yeah.
growing up in that palace, but he's not a trained writer. We hired somebody who was, and he told his story openly, vulnerably, and that writer was able to craft and turn that story into something that was usable as a book.
Hmm.
We, as business owners, one of the first things I learned when I started my business was that I was really good at marketing, branding, websites,
Yeah.
and not great at accounting. And
Right.
so I hired a bookkeeper. I have hired a
Hmm.
bookkeeper, and I was not ashamed about that.
Hmm.
And I I think that there's this hesitation within I I don't know why it's specifically women, but there is this hesitation about using technology and using AI to help us do things. Like it's cheating or it's too easy. And we hire people to help us with other things. Why not use this technology that's been created to help us bridge that gap?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I think you're dead on about people being suspicious of the technology, like, oh, I don't want it, it's going to take over the world, I don't want to give my information away and all of this. But remember, this is what also happened with the internet, right? So the internet,
Absolutely.
people were suspicious about that, like, well, this thing is, I don't trust it just putting my information out in the World Wide Web. And there's a joke saying, our parents taught us not to get in the car with strange guys, and now we're ordering a strange guy to pick us up in a car, right? And so,
Yes. Yes.
you know, all of these things that we were taught to fear, they're happening now, right? And it's just like anything else. You have to say, like, how can I make this work for me in a way that still protects my identity, my interests, myself, physically, mentally, whatever. And I think
Yeah.
you can use it, but you have to use it in a way that makes sense. Like I wouldn't give Chat GPT like, hey, here's my credit card information. What can I afford with the balance that I have? Like you have to be
Right.
smart, right? Like
Oh,
don't
yeah.
out of, but I also feel like maybe women are slower to adopt it because women are in those career fields where maybe AI could be taking over, like that marketing, PR, and I feel like those are women dominated industries where they have the most fear that AI could take over. But I think like what you're doing, you're embracing it and then utilizing it as a tool for your business. I think that there's so much value in that.
Absolutely. And yes, jobs are absolutely going to be lost. It's
Hmm.
said that like 25 to 35% of jobs are going to drastically change
Oh yeah. Yeah,
because
yeah.
of AI over the next few years.
Hmm.
But if we remember back 20, 30 years ago, and we all had that set of Encyclopedia Britannicas in our
Right,
homes,
right.
right? So none of those people that were employed by Encyclopedia Britannica, they don't have their same jobs today.
Right. They're not
We
going
had
door
to
to door.
shift. Right. We had
Hmm.
to shift because of the internet. They had to shift. We're going to shift too.
Right.
That doesn't mean that their research expertise or their sales expertise, that didn't just go
Hmm.
away. They had
Mm-mm.
to shift to something else. And I think that women getting into AI, playing with it, learning it, it's going to help us stay ahead of these
Hmm.
changes.
Hmm. Well, and what I do think it does, AI does, is it takes that layer of the mediocre, and I hate to be so
Mm-hmm.
brash, but it takes the ones who are not really all that good or trying all that hard, and it kind of removes them, right? Because if you can give me the same result that ChatGPT can, why am I using you? And it's no
Oh,
different
yeah.
than, I was in the travel industry, right? And so when the internet came out and all of the airlines now have they put all their airfare on websites, they decided we're not going to pay travel agents anymore, period. And they just shut down an entire revenue source for all travel agents worldwide, right? So now if you want to hire a travel agent to book your airfare, they have to charge you to do that because the airlines won't pay them a commission. And then the same thing with hotels. Hotels are like, all of our rooms are online. And so we had to become inventive and say, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to negotiate group hotels, right? So if you have a conference, we will then source that to multiple hotels, help you negotiate your contract, help you work, different benefits into your contracts. And so there was a lot that you could do to add value. But for those who were just going to sit behind a computer and like, plug away into a few, like here's your hotel, here's your, this is your travel plan, they can go away because the internet took that away, right? And so you have to
Yes.
evolve and you have to embrace what you have and then show a way that you can add value. And your value comes from your expertise, right? And your, consultations and things like that. So I think if you just do it correctly and you really put the effort into, look, I will embrace this technology. I'm not going to, say that it's a bad technology, but I think that we can utilize it to the highest good that it can be used.
Yeah, love that. Love the travel agent example as well. I hadn't thought of that. I'm going to have to remember that.
Yeah. So I mean, there's so many, and right now, the whole dock strike, that thing that was happening with all the ports. One of the things that they're so frustrated about is they don't want robots to come in and do their jobs. And it's like, well, buddy, robots don't need breaks. They're not going to complain and call
Yes.
off and, have their union go in and say, we need, a 70% pay rate. Instead, the robots will just come in and do your job more effectively 24 hours a day and things will just get done. So.
Yeah, and I think what people have to realize is that the robots can't do it themselves
Hmm.
yet. They yet. Um, every technology that we're talking about, it needs a human behind it to make it
Correct.
work. And that's what I want women to remember and to not be afraid of, to not be afraid to use it, to get in, like I said, and to get curious. The way that we get good at things is through repetition, through continuing to get in, get dirty, get messy. you're not going to break it. Like, you're not going to break ChatGPT. Like,
Yeah.
get in and try things.
Yeah.
And the more you use it, the better you get at it, the better you understand what types of questions yield the best responses. What types of feedback can I give it so that it will shift its responses? So one of the things that I do for clients when I have a full branding job, where I do a full brand or rebrand, website, content strategy, is I'm building custom bots for my clients. So either a custom GPT or a Claude project, depending on which platform they prefer. And what that does is it takes all of the brand strategy that I have created and researched and written, but also that I have pulled out of my clients through all of these conversations. And right, like, you talk to people and you're like pulling at the little threads to get to the heart of who they are and who their business is and what their ideal client is, and all of that. And you can use that to put into a custom GPT so that it understands a little bit more about your business. And what I tell my clients when I'm training them is, even with these customizations, you have to treat ChatGPT like it's a really enthusiastic intern that's like fresh out of school. It is, anything you ask it to do, it's going to approach that and say, yes, I can do that for you. And then it's going to bring it back to you, and it might not be exactly correct.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you're working with that intern, you're not just going to take it and be like, oh, this is shit, and do it yourself. You can, but then that intern's not learning anything. You're going to give them feedback, say, hey, this piece is really good. This piece needs a little bit of work. We need to tweak this, or this is wrong about my business. You got this piece a little off. And you can do that with ChatGPT. You can give it feedback, and it will learn within that thread or within that project. It learns more about your business. It learns what language you like to use, your tone of voice. You can put all of that into the customizations so that what it's giving back to you might not be exactly what you would put out as a blog post or a social media post or a press release, but it can get you about 80% of the way there. And you go in and add your little tweaks and adjustments to make it more like you.
Absolutely. Well, and what I love about it is that it just sparks innovation. So like I'll say, hey, I'm thinking about redoing the compensation plan for, my management team. What is competitive that I can bring to the table, and how can I incentivize them? And it sparks, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Well, what about this? And then I'll it's like I'm having a full-on conversation with somebody who has researched the internet while I'm talking to them, right? And so
Yes. Yes. And so I think one of the other hesitations that we didn't talk about with people using ChatGPT, and I hear this a lot from the women I talk to, they used it a year ago when it, or a year and a half ago. And the results they got were crap, and they haven't gone back to it. And it has gotten so much smarter, and it's continuing to get smarter and better. The customizations it allows you to put in are better. And so I want people who did try it, did not get the results they wanted, to go back and play again, because it's come leaps and bounds.
Oh yeah, so much better. And I mean, like I said, it's a tab that's literally always open on my computer because I go back to it so often, and I like, it saves what you've been searching or what projects it's worked on for me, so I can just hit, pretty powerful podcast, and it can be like, hey, remember when we were talking about this? I want to add this, and here's what I think I'm going to do, and it will just spit out as if we never left that conversation, which is amazing. And so like there's just so many great tools that I use, even if it's just for a framework. Like even if it's like, hey, I'm gonna have, an annual planning meeting with my team. Can you just give me a great agenda that I can use as a starting point? And then I will use that agenda and I will plug in what I actually want to talk about. But there's just a lot of value in just taking some of the work off of your shoulders, and like you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. And it's so interesting sometimes because like we've done annual meetings now. I've had my business for 10 years every year, but you know, asking ChatGPT how to frame, like, yeah, we've never talked about that. I guess that would be a good thing. Like it just gives you a new perspective sometimes, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, new perspectives, and it gives you a bit of power,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
There's that feeling of helplessness when when you know you've got a thing to do and you're staring at a blank screen and
Yes.
just that little flashing cursor, like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
where do I
I
start?
know. I know.
And that little leg up,
Mm.
it's so helpful, and it helps give me confidence in doing things that I was not trained to do, to at least to start researching, to start with curiosity.
Yeah. Well, and one of the funny things that I use it for, so I am from the Northeast, but I live in the South. And so, sometimes I can come across as harsh, right? And so I've heard this. I've gotten this review, like we do these 360 reviews, and like sometimes the way you say things is, it feels hurtful. And I'm like,
Yeah.
like I'm really bad at that whole like, build, burn, build. Like I just get to the point of what I'm trying to say. And so
Yep.
I'll craft an email and then, on Google right now they have a, rewrite in AI. And so I'll have it rewrite. I'm like, oh, that sounds so much softer. Perfect. Or I'll tell
Yes.
ChatGPT like rewrite this email, but add in some, just some nice words of encouragement. So it does. It's
Yes.
amazing. Not
Yes.
that it's not sincere, but it's not how I would, because, I get just direct to the point, and I just, it doesn't even occur to me like, oh, I should ask how their day was. And I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Same. That direct communication style. It's really good for that. The other thing that I have a former colleague who is she's dyslexic.
uh-huh.
And she has, the entire time I've known her, she's had difficulty crafting email responses back to people. She used
Hmm.
to dictate her response and send it to an assistant and have that assistant type it up. Now she types into she'll copy and paste the email,
Hmm.
then type out her response and have Chat GPT rephrase it. And it's given her so much confidence
Yeah, it's
because this is
amazing.
something she struggled with her entire life. And she's a CEO, and
Mm-hmm.
it is a struggle. And now this has taken that barrier away for her.
Absolutely. Well, and outside of Chat GPT, there's also so many great tools out there. And I mean, almost every website now has some sort of AI feature to it. Like I said to me,
Yep.
even my Google email, has a rewrite in AI feature. And, LinkedIn, I think is another one where I can write a post on LinkedIn and it says, rewrite in AI. I'm like, okay, go for it. It sounds great. And it just gives you that extra level of, it if I have a run-on sentence, it fixes that for me. If I have, misspelled a word, it fixes that for me. So I just think that there's
Yeah.
value, and I think the more we embrace it, the more we can utilize it to our benefit, right? Again, it's not competition. It's not out there to take our job. It's out there to be our assistant. And if you use it the way and this is another thing. Maybe it's that women are bad at delegating, because I know I am. So maybe that's a thing.
You may have hit on something there. I don't know if women are bad at delegating, but I know women business owners, women entrepreneurs, we're scrappy. We're scrappy
Yes,
as hell. We're used
we
to
want to
doing
we
things
want to
all
prove to the world that
ourselves.
we can do it all.
Yes. But please let this serve as permission to everyone listening.
Uh-huh.
Here is your permission slip. Like, outsource to ChatGPT.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
You're not hurting anything. You're not hurting anyone. Like, just
And if you don't
let.
like it, then don't use that part, right? But like
Yep.
don't throw the baby away with the bathwater, right? And so it's like
Yes.
just try it. If it didn't work for you that one time, fine. Don't use what it wrote for you. But then come back later and be like, hey, I thought that, or rephrase it and let it figure it out. But you got to teach it. It's kind of like you were saying, like an intern. Teach it what you want, just like you would teach anyone else what you want.
Yeah. And I do think I do think that authenticity is a is a big thing.
Hmm.
Um, whether that's part of the hesitation or if that's a separate issue, um, authenticity is a big deal. Um, People like to say that they can tell when AI has written something, and
Hmm.
that is, in some cases, it's true. I can spot an AI generated Instagram caption, a
Sure.
LinkedIn post, especially the LinkedIn comments.
Mm,
where people are using bots to comment. So I think as we move forward, authenticity is going to be huge. And for small business owners, there will be a fine line that we walk, right? Using AI to the best of its ability and for what we need to use it for, and also remaining authentic, owning our own voice and our own power
mm,
within our area of expertise. Um, I think we're seeing. Okay, we're recording this
uh-huh.
the week of the presidential inauguration.
Mm-hmm.
We just saw at the inauguration a room full of the tech bros and billionaires
Uh-huh.
right there
Yep.
on stage.
Yep.
Meta just announced that they are firing all of their fact checkers
Mm-hmm.
for their platforms, and they're doing this in an age when we've got more information and more bot AI garbage coming at us like more than ever,
Yeah.
right? So as much as I want to be an advocate for AI, I also I want people to understand it, and the people like you and I, Angela,
Mm-hmm.
like that keep it open on our desktops all the time,
Right.
that yes, we can use it, but I hope that people are using it as a tool and not a crutch.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm seeing with branding, we need to be building our foundation and our home base, right? So our brand, our websites, like the literal communities. I'm a part of
Mm-hmm.
two awesome women's networking groups here in St. Pete. Wherever those are, um, building those communities and staying authentic within those groups is going to be hugely important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but a lot of those digital communities, like social media, we also have to acknowledge that those could go away at
Right.
any moment, right? Like we're seeing it with TikTok the past few
Mm-hmm.
weeks. Um, Email's no different, right? Like we all say, like, oh, social media, you don't own social media. You do own your email list. Like, yeah, we own our email list. Those email addresses are yours, but the email platforms we're all using, they're all part of that same Silicon Valley tech sphere. And we're realizing that the billionaires, the tech bros, they can change the game on us at any point.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
we really need to be, and you can use AI to do this. We can
Yeah.
we can use it because if I've got a really good story or a really good case study that I want to share that will be really helpful to my communities. And I've got an email community, I've got social media on Instagram, I've got threads, um, I've got people my networking groups that I speak to. If I've got this one case study, I can use AI to frame that in a way that's going to be most impactful for the people on those platforms. But at
Mm-hmm.
the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, and at the core of it, it's still my story. It's
Oh
my
yeah.
case study. It's my expertise. And so we're fusing these two things. We're fusing authenticity with AI to help us spread our stories in a way that are impactful to the most people, to the people in our communities that we're cultivating,
Yes.
right? So we
Yep.
can use these platforms, social media, email, even AI. Um, but I think in 2025, and this is just a prediction. We'll have to see. It'll be interesting when I come back a year from now and
Uh-huh.
listen again.
Right, right.
Um, I think that the community building and getting our messages out to those communities and building trust, that's going to be the key, the
Yeah.
foundation that we should all build.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I'm seeing a lot of that. I mean, like even the communities that I see, rallying around all these disasters that are going on, whether it's, massive snowfall in the South, or it's the hurricane in North Carolina, or it's the wildfires in LA. Like, people are rallying and they're building community. And, I see a lot of positivity coming out of that
Mm-hmm.
and willingness to help. But I think it's finally bringing back that human element because I think we lost the human element during the pandemic. And so, during the pandemic, this is when technology really took hold of us and said, okay, we're
Yeah.
stripping your humanity out. You have to only communicate through Zoom and stay in your house, don't associate
Yep.
with people. And now we're like, no, we need people, right? Like, technology isn't going to solve, they're not going to, it's not going to go help the people in North Carolina right now. It's not going to keep us warm in the snowstorm. We need community. And so, yes, I think that authenticity, the community, those things that we're right now is, I feel like, more important than ever.
Yeah. The digital platforms, they can change and evolve, they can go away.
Yeah.
We can let it frustrate us
Yeah. Yeah.
and shake our fists at the algorithm, or we can focus on the relationship building that,
Right.
I mean, really, that's how we all started our businesses in the first place, was with that
100%.
relationship and trust building. It's
Yeah.
at our core. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So to pivot a little bit, what obstacles did you overcome when you were starting your business? Because I'm sure you've had your share, as we all have, but tell me some of the things that you've had to overcome.
okay, this is a great question. Um, I I have been laid off 4 or 5 times. I'll have to
Ooh,
count so I can get this right
ooh.
for the story. But um, yeah, working in the marketing industry, marketing, it's always seen as overhead, not revenue.
Oh, interesting.
So I
Even
am
though it
for
generates revenue
it, the,
indirectly.
indirectly, the bean counters don't always see it that way.
Uh-huh,
So
uh-huh.
at 43 years old, I've been through several ups and downs, the dot-com bubble, different recessions, and as the economy starts to slow,
Mhm.
marketing is usually the first thing that gets cut in a business. And so I've been through several layoffs. Um, Starting my own business, and I started during the pandemic after a layoff, um,
Okay.
it was scary, but it has been the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. Um, I I was I was feeling like I didn't belong in this agency, and I was feeling like, I kind of want to go off and do my own thing. But then the pandemic hit, and I got scared. I knew I needed health insurance. I knew I needed a steady paycheck. And so I stayed at a place where I wasn't happy and I knew it wasn't a right fit for me. And then I got laid off and had to figure it out on my own. And so now it's interesting realizing that the job security that kept me in that place
Yeah.
is it wasn't security at all.
Hmm.
Um, I have
Was it
a
comfort zone?
it was comfort zone. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I have a colleague, a friend with a t-shirt. I want this t-shirt. It
Uh-huh.
says, "Be your own daddy, make your own sugar."
Ooh.
And I love this shirt so
Uh-huh.
much because like realizing that I didn't need someone else's business to
Hmm.
pay me a paycheck, that I could pay myself with the business, the expertise, the brain that I have myself. Um, that's a huge like level up on mindset for me.
I love it. Well, and it's one way we can, start to write the pay equity thing, right? And so
Oh yeah,
you go out and you make your own destiny. If somebody else isn't going to see my value, I will go bring my value to them and charge them more for it, right? Because I know I'm good at what I do.
yep, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, yeah, one of the things that I really struggled with was imposter syndrome when I was getting out on my own, and I was like, I can do this, I can do this, and then I'm like, I can't do this, I can't. But that comfort zone, they say it takes the pain being so bad that it's worth the pain of the risk, right? And so we're very pleasure and pain oriented. That's how we're motivated, and so we're not motivated by pleasure, we're motivated by pain. And so the pain has to be enough pain that you're willing to go through the pain of the unknown, which is
Yep.
not only painful, but it's also scary, right?
Oh yeah.
We love predictability. And yeah, so yeah, I just find it fascinating that as much as we focus on happiness and being happy and finding our happiness, we're really motivated by pain. It really is, how painful is this? And can I make it less painful?
Pain and complacency,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
status quo. Yep.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's very interesting. So who inspires you?
Um, my biggest inspiration right now is all of the women who are starting businesses. There's a statistic out of the Small Business Administration.
Uh-huh.
There have been more women who have started businesses in the last few years than men for the first
Really?
time in history.
Wow.
And these women are what inspire me to keep doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yes, they're all going to need a brand, a website.
Sure.
And that's my business. But they also are going to feel like I felt like they don't deserve to be doing what they're doing, that they're not ready. And I want to be a cheerleader for those women. And their journeys also, it's a huge inspiration. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Having the willingness and the courage to jump from a 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we've all got different motivations. Some want more, a lot of people I talk to, it's a freedom of time thing. And the acknowledgement that I will have control over my own schedule to spend
Mm-hmm.
more time with my family and my kids, to travel when I want to those are the things that I'm hearing over and over. And so I am constantly inspired by the courage it takes to jump from that 9 to 5 into the unknown.
Yeah, it is scary, but and then there's also this idea that, people who say, "Oh, I want to make my own schedule and I want to do this." That's a balance, right? Like that takes so much discipline because when you're starting your business, you want to work on it all the time. It becomes an obsession almost because we want to see it succeed, right? Like this is our baby. We're taking this risk, it's all on the line. And so we can become obsessive. And I know I've done that where my personal life is out of whack and,
Oh yeah.
but there's a what is the saying? An entrepreneur will work 80 hours for themselves to avoid working 40 hours for someone else.
Yep.
This is so true. But
Oh yeah.
you have to do it because you just genuinely want to do it for you. And then the amount of confidence that comes from that, the level of just reward that you get from it, from knowing that I did something like this. Like I stepped out of my comfort zone and I did something I never thought I could do. And I did it and I succeeded and here I am, to tell
Oh
the
yeah.
story. So it's the most rewarding thing. I always say it's the hardest and best thing I've ever done.
Same. Same.
Yeah, yeah. So what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Oh, well, I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan,
All right.
and she's got this song, "You're on Your Own, Kid."
Oh,
And
okay.
so 18-year-old me, I want her to know that maybe she's not on her own, but that she's on her own journey. You're on your own journey, kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, your journey's not going to look like anyone else's, and it's not supposed to. It doesn't have to,
Right.
and that doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Mm,
Um, I at 18 felt like I needed to, you finish high school, you go to college, you step into a career, you're on this predetermined path. And I just want 18-year-old me to know that it doesn't have to look like that, and that's okay.
mhm.
Um, yeah,
I love that. Yeah. I think we get caught up in that, especially girls. I think when we're young
yes.
women, we're like, nope, this is what the expectations are of me, and we need to follow the expectations that others have of us. And that is something that I think women in particular, we get caught in the trap of that. The expectation is that I'm going to graduate from high school, go to college, meet my husband, have a family, maybe have a career, depending on whether or not we can fit that into our life, and then, go from there. And so there's such an expectation of us that we have a hard time, kind of pushing that away and saying, you know what? I think I'm going to make my journey a little bit different because we're so afraid of what the backlash could be.
Yep.
The what do you mean you're not going to have kids? What do you mean you're not going to, go to college? What do you mean you're not going to do, get married in your 20s? Like there's so much of that, and we're so afraid of getting that pushback because we're people pleasers many times, and we want people to like us and be happy with what we're doing.
Oh yeah. And speaking as someone who did not get married until her 40s,
Yeah, yeah.
I like I need 18-year-old me to know that that's okay too.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
But I also want to acknowledge the privilege in that statement. I am extremely fortunate in that I had a very strong support system. I have very supportive parents. I have a very supportive partner who has been here for me with many all-nighters, staying up till 4 a.m. to finish a website. But
that's awesome.
But my parents at 18 were also very supportive, and I think understood that I was on a different journey.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to be the one to get married at 22. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I know that there is a privilege that comes with having that support system, that safety net, knowing that I could go off on a different path. And if I failed, I wasn't going to be sleeping on the streets. I knew I always had a couch I could come home to.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Not that I ever needed to, but knowing it's there gives you a certain amount of freedom. And I am incredibly grateful. Mom and Dad, if you're listening, I am incredibly grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've really enjoyed this, Erika. You were amazing to talk to and just so wise. I just really enjoyed this. But what do you wish more people knew?
I wish that more people knew that AI is not scary.
Yeah.
That you don't have to have a plan for it. You don't have to have a strategy. You can just get in and play with it.
Yeah.
And you're not going to break it. Just
absolutely
approach it with curiosity, with the curiosity and the wide eyes of a child, I guess.
Yeah.
That it's there for us to use as a tool, just like anything else. I also, for all the small business owners out there, or all the women who are thinking about starting off on your own, job security is a complete smokescreen.
Yes.
It's a fabrication, and that we are learning that the rug can be pulled out from underneath us at any. This goes back to the billionaires and the algorithm. It's changing administrations and tons of people with like super secure government jobs who are finding out this week that now they don't anymore. And me with my experience getting laid off and having to realize that no. And this is a powerful statement that I can say now that I don't think I could have said 4 or 5 years ago. I now know how to make my own money, how to support myself, how to use my expertise to help other people and to be profitable at that. And there is power in that once you figure it out, that no one can take away.
Yes, absolutely. Amen to that. So I've really enjoyed this. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a great conversation.
Yes, I've enjoyed it. Well, where can people find you?
Well, I am online at mileenddigital.com.
Okay.
And that is my website. I am also I'm working on starting a group, talking about community building, starting a group for women to get in and learn how to play with AI. So I'm starting the AI Queens Society. Information for that will be on my website and on Instagram at mileenddigital.
Perfect. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you again. And you can also find Erika on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. So thank you guys, everyone, for your time today. And I hope everyone has the most amazing week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining our guests on the Pretty Powerful Podcast. And we hope you've gained new insight and learned from exceptional women. Remember to subscribe or check out this and all episodes on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. Visit us next time. And until then, step into your own power.